Okay, thanks for coming. Excited to introduce Dan Pitcher as our new offensive coordinator. It's a position that he's really earned, and he's been here longer than the 5 years I've been here, but I think he's impressed all of us every step of the way and continued to take on more responsibility. Played an integral part in really helping our quarterbacks have the success that they've had over the last several years, and so now he'll just transition all that hard work into the OC position, and I'm excited to work side by side with him and have a great year next year.
Thanks, Zach. Really excited for this opportunity. This has been a long time coming for me. I've been a part of this organization now for 8 years. This feels like home to me. There are people here really at all levels of the building that time and time again have shown belief in me, have offered me more and more opportunity, shown the faith that I can succeed in those roles, and I'm very thankful for that. And to me, this is just one more step in that journey, and it's something I know I'm ready for. And the plan is to just continue proving those people right, and I'm excited to get started.
Dan, how important was it to stay here in Cincinnati?
I think anytime you find yourself a part of something that you believe in, and you're around really good people, and you love coming to work every day, you got to have a really good reason to leave that willingly. And so, fortunately for me, the way things transpired, I didn't have to make that decision. And I get to stay here, and this has been ideal for me all along. I didn't know whether it was going to work out this way, but it has.
Zach, how important was it to have a level of continuity? I mean, you haven't changed coordinators in 5 years, and he's been in the building. How important was that?
Yeah, when it's available, I think it is critical. And it's not always the case everywhere, but Dan's role has really evolved. Yeah, he's been the quarterback coach, but that role has really evolved and given him more, and he's been a bigger voice as the years have gone by. And so it was a natural progression to make him the coordinator once Brian left, and I know that our staff would feel the same way.
Dan, you said this feels like home. Was there a point during your time here that particularly felt the case? And you've been here a while, obviously, where that you noted that?
Yeah, I think it's rare that you get to be a part of something in one building where you see the lowest of the lows and the highest of the highs. And when you kind of get to experience every step along that journey, the elation, the disappointment, to have felt all of that in one place, and experience that range of emotions, that's home. I mean, that's family. That's you just feel like you've grown and you've become who you are in that place. And that place for me is here. And so I'm just really fortunate that I get to stay.
Joe has spoken many times, Dan, about your influence on him and what kind of impact you've had on the offense in general. How big of a role is continuing to work with Joe a part of the decision to move on?
Yeah, no, it's huge. There's a lot of people in this profession that I respect who have great perspective, who have reached out to me, and almost to a person, their advice is, when you have an elite quarterback, you hang on as long as you can. And we have that here. And not only is he an elite player, but I've gotten to know him so well as a person. He's a special person. He's different. They don't make many like him. And to get to continue working with him day in and day out, knowing that we have a guy that can win us a world championship, it's hard to put a price on that.
How much pride did you take in what Jake did? Because obviously you had to do a lot of work with him, really behind the scenes a lot of times.
Yeah, I mean, a lot. He just happiness for him, probably more than anything. You always have a sense of pride when the people you're responsible for preparing, when they play well, that reflects on you. And so that was nice for me. But for me, it was really just about seeing Jake finally get an opportunity, watching him take advantage of it, seeing him be able to now establish a career for himself in this league, which he deserves. And so just at the end of the day, really, really happy for Jake and happy for us because, he provides tremendous value to the organization.
Dan, what was your view of what the offense did last year, specifically the chance to build on what you did in the 5 games where Burrow was really healthy?
Yeah, I think you can kind of zoom out and say, and look at the big picture of who you want to be as an offense. When you get into the season, and Zach does such an amazing job of this, it's really about who do we have to be in a given week to beat the team that we need to play, and that takes into account constraints that you may have within your own building, and then who are we facing? And I just think we do such a good job of that. So, there's been a lot made of what did the offense look like over the final part of the season, and I really just think that's a product of us looking at it on a week-to-week basis. Who do we have available to us? Who are we playing, and what do we need to do to win? And that's something we'll always do. And so we'll look at some of those things that we did well at the end of the year, and certainly Joe Burrow is capable of doing anything you ask him to do. And so that's what we'll do this offseason, is do a great job of deciding who we need to be moving forward, and then have the adaptability to adjust if we need to.
Zach, what was your first impression of Dan when you got on staff, and why was he so critical to what you want to do as a coach at the beginning?
So I think the first time, Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, we crossed paths, I was at UC, staying in the hotel the night before our first regular season game, which was a Thursday night, and the Bengals were in the same hotel getting ready for their preseason game, and I went in to talk to Bill Lazor in a boardroom in there, and Pitch was in there. So that was the first time I met him. Then when I got the job, a bunch of people reached out and said, this is someone you should hold on to. You know, he's someone who's got a great future and would fit really well with demeanor and all those things. And so, I can't pinpoint a moment where it's like, man, I really believe in Pitch, but all the stuff leading into me getting the job, the first year here and the role he played, was excited to make the phone call to make him the quarterback coach, when AVP went to Cleveland. And he's a very hard worker. Everyone that's been around him believes in him, and that's been my experience, over the last 5 years.
The structure of the apparatus of how y'all work on game day in terms of play calling, all that would still remain the same, correct?
Relatively the same. I think every year's a new year, and as personnel adjusts on our staff, we have an open quarterback job, and that process has begun and will be ongoing, into next week, as we evaluate all the proper candidates and see what the best fit for us is. And so again, that's a process we'll sit down as a staff and continue to go. But certainly his voice will be the loudest on the headset, as he and I work together and as we piece through what the whole thing will look for.
Dan, have you thought about being on the sideline still versus booth? Or you're not there yet?
We're not there yet. That's something ultimately, the head coach will decide where my services best fit the team. And I've been in the booth. I've been on the sideline. There's pluses and minuses to both. That's something we'll decide at a later date. But I'll do whatever's best for the unit and for the team.
Zach, there have been a lot of big third downs over the years, or when you talk about him, you mentioned like an idea pitch had or something like that. What stood out to you about the work he did specifically as a game planner for third downs?
Well, you believe in what he's presenting to you, and so that's really an evolution over several years of him doing that. And I'd love to go back and look at year one of us having third down meetings together to where we ended up last year. But a great trust that he owns the scheme in that area, and he's going to present a great plan, and really just got to the point where we were just tweaking a couple things as we finalized it. But even on game day, his role really evolved, over the course of the game when it came to third down, and his voice, got bigger and bigger as the years went, and so there's a lot of trust there, and so that's why this is a natural progression.
You've done so much, you've had so many responsibilities since Zach has been here, situations, third down. What do you think is the one area that might have prepared you the best for taking a big job?
That's a great question. I think the two you just mentioned, from a scheme standpoint, were big. That responsibility that was given to me with regard to third downs, because that's kind of just like a mini encapsulation of an entire game plan. And so just being able to develop a process as you scheme that really helps you get prepared for that specific role as a coordinator. The situational stuff is very helpful. Obviously, all the sides of the ball, that's important, but on offense for sure, with regard to coaching the quarterback and instructing him on what he needs to do in those critical moments of the game. I would say one of the biggest parts of this job has nothing to do with any of that, which is managing people and leading and providing a vision throughout the week, communicating, and really just being in this building and working with the guys that we have has prepared me for that. I have such great relationships with these coaches and these players, and my role will be a little bit different in that now. But to me, that's first and foremost. All these other things are very important that we're talking about, but this is a leadership position, and it's going to be my job to lead these guys, and I look forward to that.
Two-parter, Dan. How did Brian Callahan help you progress in your position? And secondly, have you given thought to how you see the offense differently, and how, you have a different set of eyes, obviously, how you may look at coordinating the offense?
Yeah, I mean, Brian's been huge in my development. You know, Brian just has a wealth of knowledge, really from an entire life in football, and being around great coaches and great quarterbacks and great players and great offenses, and so, you know, I've just taken so much, you know, from him philosophically, particularly in the areas of protection and you know, the drop back pass game and what that all looks like and how it ties together. You know, the biggest thing I've probably taken for Brian is just how he treated people in the building in that role. I think when you value people, you get the best out of them. When they feel valued, they give you their best. And that's how I felt as a position coach on this staff. And so it's now my job to continue that and to make sure that all the position coaches continue to feel that way. With regard to my vision for the offense, you know, I think I mentioned the word adaptability before. It's something I believe in completely, and you need to have the ability to pivot in a moment's notice, given you know, different constraints that might be placed on you. So I can't sit here and say I see the offense moving in this specific direction. Listen, we've had a very good offense. We've dealt with some issues, particularly this past season, that made life a little bit harder on us than we were used to. But I fully believe in the foundation that we have and that we have the people in place to, you know, be one of the top offenses in football.
Dan, when you were playing quarterback and kind of coming up, you know, what were kind of some of the biggest influences on how you kind of saw the game and how you envisioned how the game should look like?
I mean, it's hard to pinpoint. Like, there's just so many people, so many coaches growing up, playing the position, you know, getting to college, playing for people that really valued me as a person and as a player. It's who it's when I figured out that I wanted to coach, is being around people that you know, treated me that way, you know, and I had a voice. And the only reason I had a voice is because they knew how hard I worked, and there needs to be that mutual respect there. But I had it, and that's how I wanted to continue as a coach, is to kind of exist that way. That's how I treat those guys in the quarterback room, and that's now, as my role expands, how I'll continue to treat all the guys on offense. And so I think that is definitely comes from, you know, coming up, playing that position and doing those things.
What was the last couple weeks like for you?
There was a lot going on. You know, a lot of communication and you know, people reaching out and potential interest, and that's good. It feels good to be recognized as somebody who's capable of a role like this. That's what you work towards. That's why I've done the things that I've done. I've never been shy about that. You know, that my goal is to get to this point. And so you sort through all those things, and in the back of the mind, in my mind, I'm hoping I'm sitting in front of you right now answering this question. You know what I mean? And I'm just really glad that I am. So that's really the extent of what it's been.
You're used to game day stress. You're used to football stress. What is the last 2 weeks stress like?
Yeah, I mean,
Different?
and stress. I mean, sure, it's stress, but it's good stress.
Yeah.
You know, like it comes with the territory, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
When players are free agents, they always cite the opportunity to go somewhere and win as a big thing. Is it almost a little bit of a lure the opposite way for a coach, where you've got a chance to maybe go somewhere and build something, and then how do you balance that between staying where it's familiar?
Sure, I mean, there's elements of that challenge that can be appealing as a competitor, but you got to be careful. I mean, that's a double-edged sword. There's you know, all sorts of pitfalls that come with that, and not that I wouldn't have been willing to take those on and attack something like that with everything I had, but you know, as you sit back and you do the cost-benefit analysis of all these potential options, I'll just keep coming back to it. I mean, the leader in the clubhouse is right here, and that's just really thankful that it worked out this way.
Were the past couple weeks stressful for you, given the uncertainty around both Brian and Dan?
It's at moments, you know, and I appreciate the Titans for their timeliness. That made things ideal for us because, you know, there was timeline issues, and it worked out the way that it needed to work out, thankfully, and so we don't have to think beyond that. But you know, that's the truth of the matter.
Is communication the key in this, kind of for both of you, in that moment, knowing there's interest in you, Brian's interviewing?
It is, you know, it is, and we were in constant communication throughout everything I knew, everything he knew. So again, there was constant communication throughout the whole deal.
Zach,
everything evolve? I'm sorry. How did everything evolve with the last year when you knew this was a possibility of, okay, Brian, Dan, you, let's figure out how these responsibilities work for potentially, kind of grooming things for the future? How did you attack that process?
It really was just more natural than maybe what people would think of. We need to structure it so the next guy, we just thought what's best for the Bengals, and it naturally progressed. I mean, I don't think there was anything we specifically said in an offseason like, here's more on your plate. It just naturally evolved that way. And so again, I think that's the best way to do it, or just does that, and we've got other guys on our staff that have continued to step up and are capable of bigger roles as well, and so I think it's an exciting time for our staff. I think we're in a really good place, and I'm happy with how it worked out.
How proud are you, Ryan, kind of the opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, that's hard to describe, how much he's meant to me, how much he's meant to pitch, this organization, for all these guys. It's hard when you work side by side, with a guy for 5 years, and like Pitch said, that the lows to the highs, trying to problem solve through unsolvable problems, it felt like sometimes, and he was as steady as they come, and so Tennessee got a good one, and it's the right place, it's the right opportunity for him. I hate that it's in the conference. I hate that we play him next year. I kind of like that we play him next year. We'll see where it pops up on the schedule, but just really, really happy for him and Allison, and it's, he's waited a long time for that opportunity. He's been prepared for a long time for that opportunity. I think the right place came calling for him, and I'm really happy the way it felt out. I know it felt right for him, and we'll hear more, at what he says in his press conferences as well. I'll be watching anxiously to see him on that stage, but really, really happy that it worked out for him.
Are you too young to be a tree?
Yeah. There's a lot of trees out there, and a lot of people that have influenced all of us, and so just because I've worked under people and people have worked here under, there's Pitch couldn't even get to the point where he was naming names of people who've influenced him, but there's so many parts of your coaching, where your coaching package that have made you who you are, that it's really hard to say, this person influenced me more than that. There's a lot of people I think that affected all of us.
And the collaborative approach for so many decisions here, how has that helped you, and how important will that continue to be going forward?
It's huge. I think there's some places in this league where that's not the case at all. I think there's some places where they pay lip service to it, and then there's here where we put it in action, and it motivates you as a position coach and as someone who's responsible for whatever section that you've been given to know that you're going to be listened to. And it just makes you work that much harder. It makes you make sure you've checked all the boxes, because if they're going to listen to me, I better know what I'm talking about. And that's absolutely has to be a part of who we are moving forward. I wouldn't have it any other way. That starts with Zac. He's made it very clear from the beginning, through just how he interacts with all of us, that that's who he is and that's what he believes in, and there's no reason that would ever change.
Specific question: how do you view the running game, and how can it grow here?
Listen, being able to run the football is critical to offensive success, and what that looks like for every team is going to be different. That's something that we'll look at over the course of the next couple of months as we come back together as a staff and we figure out how to put our players in the best position to be successful. And we'll work on improving in that area as we will in every other one.
Zac, is there, I know, just out of curiosity, any updates on Burrow and kind of how he's growing so far? Is he kind of still worried?
I don't have any updates on where that's progressing, but everything's been positive. I've seen him. He's around. He's here. Everything has been positive, but I'm not further update beyond that.
Pitch, what would you like to see him? He put out a statement when he released that announce your hire. What would I like to kind of see that and kind of the words of confidence he had in you? Yeah,
it's nice to see. I knew that he felt that way, but it's always good when people express those things. Listen, I love Joe. Joe and I we've been tied at the hip from the moment he came in this building. I was hired into that role 2 months prior to that, and I couldn't have asked for a more ideal situation, and I love the fact that I get to keep working with him.